What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the Game Week 25 preview, so I'm going to go through the latest on Saka's injury, talk through all your double Game Week questions. Double Game Week 26 is now confirmed. Go through captaincy and then answer some of your non-double Game Week 26 questions as well. So let's get into it. So I will answer a ton of your double Game Week 26 questions in just a second, but before I do that, I want to talk about Saka and his injury because I think that has a knock-on effect in terms of what you might want to do this week and for double Game Week 26 as well. So an article came out yesterday from Simon Collins, who I follow for quite a while on Twitter. He covers Arsenal. He said, exclusive, Bukayo Saka out of tonight's Carabao Cup semi-final, which he was. Injury picked up at Leeds is not serious. The hope is he's back in time for the North London derby later this month. So that's Spurs away in Game Week 27. So it looks quite likely at the moment Saka's going to miss Sunderland at home in 25 and double Game Week 26. He's basically got to be sold. Because that Wolves away fixture will be quite close to Spurs, I guess there's a chance he could be back for that. But that's not good enough, right? You want Arsenal players that are going to play both games in 26. Looks very unlikely Saka's going to be the one. Obviously, you can wait for an update from Arteta on Friday. And he's not as bad with information as he once was, but it's very unlikely he's going to give you a clear time frame. So I think if you've got Saka, he's got to go. Like, you want 3 Arsenal players for that double in 26 that's now been confirmed. Now, in terms of which Arsenal players to buy, I'll come on to that in a second. If you're selling him to a non-Arsenal player, I still don't hate the punt on Cole Palmer, but I think the fact that he was benched last night actually makes me more worried about his minutes rather than, you know, more optimistic because it was a 3-day turnaround. So I think the fact he got benched last night means he definitely starts 25. The problem is the Leeds game is 3 days later. And once again, after the match, Rossini was talking about having to manage him. So there is a chance Palmer will start 25, 26 and 27. But after that, he's probably got to be sold. He's a lot of money. And there's no guarantee he starts that game in 26, in my opinion. So you can take a punt on Palmer if you want. There are some risks there. Otherwise, you're probably looking at Mbeumo and Wirtz. They're probably the top 2 players that I'd be looking to bring in. Mbeumo's probably better right now because the fixtures are slightly better in the short term. But over game weeks 26 to 30, the games are pretty good for Wirtz. And he seems to me like a bit of a Bruno Fernandes without penalties, in that when he gets an attack and return, the bonus is good. And his underlying numbers are getting better as well. It's starting to click for him. And I think he's pretty much nailed as long as his fitness stays okay. So probably Palmer if you want to take a punt, Mbeumo, Wirtz otherwise. Or if you want to go cheaper like an Njai or a Sarr or something like that. Anyway, let's talk about double game week 26. So Arsenal beat Chelsea 1-0 in the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg last night, which means they're now through to the Carabao Cup final. So their game against Wolves in game week 31 will get postponed, and that gets brought forward to game week 26. So if you've got Arsenal or Wolves players in game week 31, they basically won't play for you from an FPL point of view. So Arsenal's fixture run now looks like this. Sunderland at home in 25, followed by a double game week of Brentford away, Wolves away. Then it's Spurs away 27, Chelsea at home 28, Brighton away 29, Everton at home 30, no fixture in 31, and then Bournemouth at home in game week 32. For Wolves, it's Chelsea at home this week, double game week in 26 of Forest away, Arsenal at home, and that's followed by Palace away, Villa at home, Liverpool at home, Brentford away in 30, no fixture in 31, West Ham away in 32. Now, just to get one quick point out of the way for those of you that haven't played FPL for a long time, I often see people say every team has 38 games over a season, so why does this matter? The important thing to remember, we don't have the same FPL team over the course of a season. We can make transfers, so you can bring players in that have got 2 fixtures in the hope they'll get additional points over those players that have only got 1 fixture, and then when they don't have a fixture later on, you can either bench them or sell them. Now, some people think double game weeks are overhyped, etc. I'm not going to get into that. I think it's worth targeting them, especially for big teams and good players. Okay? Lots of questions around this. So I'm going to try and go through them as quickly as possible. The big question really is Rice versus Timber. I've had that question so much over the last couple of days. You're not going to like the answer, but ultimately I don't think it matters all that much. I think they're both really good picks. Go with whichever makes sense for your team. If you're sat there with a midfield you're really happy with, and you don't really know who to sell to Rice, but there's a defender you can get rid of, then get Timber. And obviously the vice versa applies. If your defence is good, there's not really any other midfielder you want, it would just be easy to get Rice. Do that. I don't think there's really any other factors at play. Most people are not going to captain these 2 players anyway. I think they're both good holds after game week 26, right up until the blank. There's not really too much to split them. I think they're both really good picks. So I don't think it really matters. So take my team, for example, right? I could, and by the way, I haven't made any early moves this week. I could sell Saka to Mbeumo and later on do Szoboszlai to Wirtz. And then when Enzo's good fixtures are out of the way, I could bring in Harry Wilson. Then I'd have Anderson, Fernandes, Wirtz, Wilson in Mbeumo midfield. I'm quite happy with that, right? There's not necessarily a space for Declan Rice. So instead, maybe I go for Timber in defence. Likewise, I might decide this week that I don't want to spend multiple transfers. I only want to make one, in which case Saka to Rice might be the move. And then I just don't get one of Mbeumo, Wirtz or Wilson later on. So it's not... I wish I had a strong opinion to help you make your decision, but I just think they're both really good picks, and I don't think it really matters. And we're going to spend all week thinking about this, and there probably will be a big swing one way or another, but which way that's going to be, I don't know. I think Timber's absolutely due some attacking returns, but Rice has also got a bunch of double digits this season. We know what he's capable of. I know he's been blanking recently, but that's not necessarily going to continue. So I'll try and think of more stuff to try and help you with this decision later on this week, but I think they are both really good picks. Go for the way that uses the fewest transfers for your team would probably be the way that I would fall. I know someone's going to come back to me and say it's going to use the same transfers. Which one would you go for? Timber, probably, because I think triple defense is what will be the differential. Not everyone, but a lot of people already own Rice. He's going to be heavily transferred in now, especially with the Saka injury. He's going to be less of a differential than triple defense. I guess maybe that would swing it for me, but I might end up on Rice. I don't know yet. The other big question, should we triple captain? Will there be other options? Now, the best captain in 26 is probably going to be Gabriel. I suspect more. When I put out a poll a few weeks ago, it was Saka, Rice, or Gabriel captain. And I think Saka and Gabriel were way ahead of Rice, sorry. And now obviously Saka's injured. I suspect most people are going to default to Gabriel and he'll be the most captained. So if you want a triple captain, you're going to have to triple captain a defender. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'd rather triple captain a defender in a double game week than an attacker in a single one in most circumstances, especially when that defender is Gabriel. Like, he's the best defender in the game. So I think that's fine. The other thing people want to know is, will there be other options to triple captain later on? Now, there will be double game weeks in game week 33. The only thing to consider with that, a lot of people are going to eye up a bench boost in 33. So if you're on a wildcard 32 strategy and you don't get your bench boost out of the way before that, you're probably going to want a bench boost in 33. That takes away your chance to triple captain a double game week player that week. So the next question, will there be any other double game weeks? Potentially in game week 36. How could those doubles in 36 happen? Well, Man City play Newcastle in the Carabao Cup tonight. Man City have a 2-goal lead. They will probably go through to the final. Their fixture against Palace in game week 31 will be a blank. It cannot get brought forward to game week 26 like Arsenal and Wolves because Palace didn't finish in the top 8 in Europe. Therefore, they've got playoff games. Okay, so that Man City and Palace fixture will probably, and none of this is guaranteed, but probably go to game week 33. In game week 34, there are FA Cup semi-finals. Okay, so if a team gets through to the FA Cup semi-final, they won't be able to play in game week 34. Let's say Man City get through to the semi-final, their game against Burnley will get called off and it will have to be rearranged. If Man City and Palace from the Carabao Cup final has gone to 33, this fixture will have to go somewhere else, potentially in 36. So in theory, you could have a Haaland double game week, Burnley away, and then whatever fixture they got in 36, Brentford at home. Maybe. That's if Man City get to the semi-final. But the other thing you've got to think about, by game week 36, the league will probably be over. Not guaranteed, but probably. So will Man City even be concentrating on it? If they're still in Europe, the priority will be there. Maybe Haaland's not a triple captain option. That might open up a triple captain option for Marmoush, maybe. But there's more issues potentially later on, and that double might not even happen. I think there's also a potential double if Villa or Liverpool get to the FA Cup final and one of them gets to the European final as well. But again, that's not a guarantee. So the main double game weeks will be in 33. I think the only other way there can be more is the fact that the FA Cup this is where it gets confusing. The FA Cup semi-finals are what caused the blanks in 34. They won't be known until just before game week 32. So the Premier League might say there's not enough time to rearrange them in 33, so they put them in 36. But for the most part, I think most of the doubles will be in 33. There's not a guarantee of getting other doubles elsewhere. So if you're really not sure about Gabriel and you don't want a triple captain in 26, your fallback plan is to hope for another double later on or just use it on an attacker in a single game week. But what it's worth, I will probably activate the triple captain in 26 because there's no guarantee of another double I can use it in later. But I'm not completely happy about doing it on a defender, even though it's Gabriel. Is Saliba viable? Yes, he will play both games in the double. I've got no doubts about that. But he is the most boring of all the Arsenal defenders. He's not great for defensive contributions. He's not the most attacking either. Gabriel and Timber are better. But if you want to go for Saliba for assurances and minutes, absolutely fine. For what it's worth, there will be an FA Cup game for Arsenal between Brentford away, Wolves away. So I would expect Timber to start against Brentford away. Ben White starts the FA Cup, then Timber starts the Wolves away game. So I think his minutes will be fine. Saliba's slightly better. Yes, but he's a more boring pick in my opinion. Are any Wolves players worth picking up? For the most part, I would say no. I'm all for targeting double game weeks, right? But one of the games for Wolves is against Arsenal, which is not great. It's Chelsea at home before that, not great. It's Palace away afterwards. They've got to play Liverpool in 29. They don't play a fixture in 31. They're not that useful to you outside of the double. Now, if you get to game week 26 with lots of spare transfers, or you need to make a move, then maybe you bring in a Wolves player if it's not going to massively have an effect on future plans for you. But I just, for most people, I just wouldn't bother, right? So as an example, right, let's say you've got a goalkeeper you're not that happy with, or you've got a spare transfer to upgrade Dubravka to Jose Sarr, then you could go for him against Forest away and Arsenal at home. Just make sure that your other goalkeeper will definitely play in game week 31 because obviously Jose Sarr won't. So he's someone you could consider. In terms of other players there, like someone like João Gomez gets defensive contributions quite a lot. If I just make this a little bit bigger, you'll see he's picked it up quite a bit recent games. So 13 against Bournemouth, 13 against City, 17 against Everton. So he's picked it up 3 times in the last 4 game weeks, but it's like 3-3-3-4. So if he does that, like attacking wise, it's just not really a huge amount of potential there. Maybe there is some. Like the expected goal involvement's not that much worse looking at the last few games than like an Elliot Anderson. But if he's only going to go get you like 3-3 or 3-4, okay, it's 6 or 7 points, which is quite nice. But that's not great for a double. And you're then stuck with that player or you've got to transfer them out. Like, is João Gomez worth a transfer in and a transfer out? Not for me. If you get to 26, there's no other midfielder you want to buy, then maybe you take the punt for the double. But I would suggest for most people it's probably not worth it. And then from a defensive point of view, obviously they play Arsenal, which is not great. And the other game is away to Forest. So going for like a Agbadu or Krejci if he's back fit, I don't think it's really worth it, to be honest with you. I'm not like completely against it, but I would not go out of your way to do it. One other player to quickly mention actually is Mane. 4.6 million. Could you go Guiu to Mane? I don't mind that. If you've got a spare transfer to do it, potentially you could look at that because Guiu's no good to you anyway. So having Mane on the bench as your third forward, not any worse. So maybe you play him in 26. Just have a look at your game week 26 team and see if there's someone you're happy to bench for Mane. So Mane's about the only one I would look at. Maybe Jose Sarr. Everyone else probably not for me. Which is the best Arsenal triple up? I mean, if I was free hitting that week, I would probably go Timber, Gabriel, and Rice. That doesn't mean you have to force those 3 players in. I've got Raya. There's no way I'm going to use 2 transfers to move him on to a different Arsenal player. I'm just going to go Raya, Gabriel, then one of Timber or Rice. Do I have the perfect 3? No. But it's going to allow me to use transfers on other stuff. And there's every chance that Raya could just do okay, right? I mean, we're all looking to target Gabriel and Timber for clean sheets. Raya will get them as well. He just won't be able to get the attacking returns on top. Is it worth getting a second Arsenal defender a week earlier? I mean, it's Sunderland at home, so sure. If it works for you, why not? Is it worth free hitting? No, definitely not. Not in game week 26. Most people should already be on 3 Arsenal, if not on 2. So it's quite easy just to bring them in. If Sunderland at home, then a good double game week, and they're still good afterwards. It's not like you have to sell them straight away. Spurs away, Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Everton at home on paper is not amazing. But if you've got 2 defenders, They just kept a clean sheet against Chelsea at home last night. Every chance they can do it again in 28. So it's not worth free hitting. For Wolves players, no chance. Is it worth wildcarding? That's a similar discussion to last week, right? How badly does your team need it? In my opinion, most people still don't need a wild card, and I think it'll be more useful later on. If your team is a mess, you've got no double game week players for Arsenal, maybe you use it in certain situations. Are Eze, Madueke and Trossard worth considering? It's a minutes problem for me. Odegaard wasn't in the squad last night. Eze started, but we don't know how long Odegaard's out for, so you can't guarantee Eze's minutes in the double. Madueke, I think he will start both games in the double with Saka out, if Saka's out for both games, that is. But he got subbed early again last night. He was subbed early at the weekend. They can play Martinelli on that right side. And then Trossard, what if they play Martinelli on the left? I don't know. It's quite boring because we get hyped up about double game weeks, but ultimately, for most people, you're probably looking Rice, Timber, Gabriel, and Raya. Maybe Saliba. Everyone else is just a massive punt. And if you want to take that punt, I really don't mind it. I'm just saying, Eze, Madueke, Trossard not guaranteed to start, depending on injuries in some cases. Like I think Madueke will start both games if Saka's out for both, but he could still get subbed early. Is 120, 130 minutes of Madueke better than getting Rice for 180? Probably not, in all honesty. So you could look at them, and then you've got the forwards, right? Gyökeres will be on penalties with no Saka, but then Jesus can play up front. Havertz is there as well. Unfortunately, I just don't think there's many Arsenal players worth considering because we don't have concrete injury news and there's so much competition for other places as well. Same with Calafiori. Nketiah started again last night. I just don't think I would risk it right now. Is free hit 31 viable? Not really. I don't think, because most people shouldn't be stacking 3 Wolves players. So you've only got Arsenal players to deal with. You can maybe bench 1 or 2 and just sell the other one or 2. So I don't think so, really. That free hit is going to be much more useful to you later on around game weeks 33, which is going to be a double, and 34, which will be blanks. Let's talk about captaincy for game week 25, and I think this is a really good week to go against Erling Haaland when he's playing Liverpool away, and I know the Liverpool defence hasn't exactly been concrete for all of this season, but the defensive numbers continue to be pretty good. I think they will make it difficult, and if you're not going to go against Haaland in a week like this, you're probably never going to do it. So I will definitely not be captaining him. Who is the best captain? Probably Fernandes. He has been so consistent all season. He's now playing in this number 10 role. It's Spurs at home, which is a pretty good fixture. I mean, the result obviously for Spurs at the weekend was good against City in the end, 2-2. But Man City could have scored more goals. And Fernandes is just always involved. Great for bonus. He is the best pick, I think, outside of Haaland. And that is where my armband will be. If I was looking at an alternative, then you have got Arsenal against Sunderland at home. And I'll be honest, right, it does feel weird to look at Bruno against Spurs at home as like the obvious pick when Arsenal literally have Sunderland at home, which I don't think is a bad fixture whatsoever. I know Sunderland have done really well this season, and they did really well in the reverse fixture against Arsenal as well. But I think Arsenal put up like 2xG in that game. They're definitely capable of doing that again at home. But I don't know whether you go for an attacker. Like, do you bring in Madueke for 60, 70 minutes to captain ahead of Bruno Fernandes? Probably not. So if you want to go Arsenal, it's probably got to be Gabriel. They will be absolutely nailed on to be one of the best shots at a clean sheet this week. I'm not going to say the clean sheet is guaranteed, but when you look at the odds for a clean sheet, Arsenal will be way up there. We know he's not bad for Defcons. We know he's got goal threat as well. It probably is Gabriel. And it's not often I say about captaining a defender. Like Declan Rice wouldn't be a bad option either against Sunderland at home. But I think I just about prefer Gabriel for the same reason I would probably, not definitely, but probably captain him over Rice in double game week 26. And then if you're looking for an alternative to both of those, I quite like Bowen against Burnley away. When I was looking for a third pick, there wasn't necessarily like a standout, but I think West Ham are doing okay at the moment. They've won 2 of their last 3. They're scoring goals, and Bowen's obviously on penalties because Paquetá's left. If that fixture was at home, I'd be a bit happier about it. I think, you know, it's a good fixture for West Ham. It's also not a bad fixture for Burnley either. But I would definitely consider Jarrod Bowen if you really want to go against Man United or Arsenal picks. Outside of that, I mean, do you go for Salah against City? In seasons gone past, he would have been a massive consideration. But I just don't know about right now. You know, Newcastle, I don't think anyone wants to captain Newcastle players if you've even got any of their attackers left. There's just not too many other options out there. So I think it's a great week to go against Haaland personally. I'm going to go for Bruno. I guess Mbeumo's an option as well, but he's not better than Fernandes or an Arsenal player, or maybe Jared Bowen. But I think if I had Bowen, I'd just be happy to own him. I don't think I'd want to go through with captaining him as well. So let's get into some of your non-double game week 26 questions. I'm very tempted to sell Haaland. Would you consider it? Owning a player so expensive that you need to permanently captain every week, and when he does well, you can't gain from it. Having all that extra money could be a game changer. Now, on the permanent captain thing, I don't really agree with that. I own him. I didn't captain him in 24. I'm not captaining him this week, and I'm not going to captain him in 26 either. So that's 3 game weeks in a row I won't captain Haaland. Now, you could turn around and say, if you're not captaining him that often, why do you need to own him or spend all that money on him? That's fair enough. But my counter argument would be, what are you spending that money on, and which forward is better than Haaland right now? I know Haaland's not done well, but which forwards are performing consistently? And don't say Ekitike, because although he did well this week, and he probably is an okay pick moving forward, it wasn't that long ago that everyone wanted to sell him. So you can't now say that he is better than Haaland. Like, I've thought about this quite a lot. If I sold him, what would the team look like? And obviously you can make a bunch of upgrades, right? So let's say I go from Haaland to Ekitike. I probably would go to Watkins, but obviously he's got an injury at the moment. We don't know for sure if he's going to be back for 25. He probably will be, by the way, but we don't know that at the time of recording. So let's just say I do go for Ekitike, who Slot has said they'll have to manage a little bit. That gives me 7.3 million to spend. Now I've got to sell Saka as well. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I go to Declan Rice. I've now got 9.8 million. Palmer, I mean, if you want to take the punt, you can, but there's fitness concerns there. You can't spend your money on Saka. Maybe you go to Salah. But is that worth 2 transfers right now to move from Haaland to Salah when Salah plays Man City? Probably not. So I could go from Szoboszlai to Wirtz, and then I could go from Elliot Anderson, who's a great cheap pick, by the way, but I could upgrade him to like Mbeumo. So I've got then an Mbeumo, Fernandes, Wirtz, Enzo, Rice midfield, which looks fine. I've still got 5 million to spend. And this takes a bunch of transfers to make all those upgrades as well. So is it worth it? I don't think so. I mean, when Liverpool come to their good fixtures in like 27 or 26, 27 onwards, right? They got Sunderland away, Forest away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Spurs at home. I guess you could take a punt on Salah instead of Haaland and use 2 transfers to make that switch. That's fine. But is anyone massively confident in Salah right now? More so than Haaland? I don't think so. So unless money is a big problem, which forward genuinely, week to week, maybe not this week because it's Liverpool away, but when you look at future weeks, right, when Haaland's got Fulham at home, Newcastle at home, Leeds away, Forest at home, West Ham away, genuinely, forget about the money, because clearly it doesn't really matter right now unless you want Salah. Which forward's better than him in all those weeks? None is the answer. That's why I'm finding it so difficult to let go. And I know he's not been doing well, right? 5-1-2-6, 2-2-2. That's his last few scores. Not good enough for that money. But I don't think it matters. And also, although I'm not captaining him right now, Newcastle at home, that fixture is right in the middle of Newcastle's Champions League playoff game. So they've got Champions League playoff game, then they play City, then they got another Champions League playoff game. It's not a bad fixture for Haaland. I may well captain him that week because in game week 27, if you look at the other fixtures, if you do go for Salah, he's away to Forest. I'm not sure that's that much better. Maybe Chelsea against Burnley at home, but unless you're going to punt on Palmer, is Enzo Fernandez against Burnley at home better than Haaland against Newcastle at home? Not so sure he is. And then Arsenal are, where are they for game week 27? Away to Spurs. So again, not a bad fixture, but is it better than Haaland? Not so sure. So I'd rather just keep him and then maybe captain him in that game. And like, it's going to sound like I'm really against selling him. I'm not. The state of FPL right now is pretty bad because there's nowhere to spend your money. Not really, right? Obviously, there's upgrades you can make, but there's no Palmer smashing it every week. There's no Saka smashing it every week. They can't stay fit. And then, although Palmer is fit at the moment, and he has started 9 of the last 10, it's worth saying, or Salah. So having all that extra money could be a game changer, but probably not. I don't think there's enough upgrades you can make quickly enough unless you're sat there with 5 transfers. So, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And when he does well, you can't gain from it. I mean, sure, but you also don't get massively punished if you think there's a week that he's good for captain. Like, if you think he's the best captain in 27, sure, you might not gain much from it, but you certainly won't lose anything either if you captain him. So, yeah, I'm not considering it at all right now. Maybe in the future, but I'd much rather concentrate on getting double game week players in and just waiting to see in a few game weeks whether like Salah's good or whether there's actually somewhere to spend your money, basically. So is Morgan Gibbs-White a good option if he's still on penalties? Now, he has got 3 goals, 1 assist in the last 5 game weeks, so I can see why people might be considering him. It's Leeds away in 25, Wolves at home in 26, which looks good. The problem comes after that. Liverpool at home in 27, Brighton away 28, City away 29. It's just not that great. And look, I've just said money doesn't matter, so I'm sure you can spend 7.3 million on him. But personally, I'd rather try and find the money to go to like an Mbeumo or a Wirtz. And also, we don't even know if Gibbs-White is still on penalties. I think he's missed 2 of 4 this season. There is a chance Igor Jesus might take the next one, maybe even someone like Elliot Anderson, for example. I don't think Gibbs-White is definitely on penalties. I think once you get past 26, he's probably someone to look to sell. So if I was just answering a question on a live stream of which midfielder to bring in, I'm not even sure Gibbs-White would like come into my mind as an option. I think I'd go straight to Mbeumo, Palmer, Wirtz, Njai, Sarr, etc. before I went to Gibbs-White. So if you're swimming in transfers, you really want to take a short-term punt for 2 weeks. Like, he's kind of okay, but not much more than that. You look at the underlying numbers, there's some goal threat there, but it's not massive. And he's not all that creative either. So he always plays. He might be on penalties, but he might not. And the fixtures long-term just not great. So I think on this one, you've probably missed the boat for the most part. So is Munoz really worth it? He has great fixtures and is very attacking, but Palace have lost crucial players through injury and transfers, which seems to have affected them very negatively. So obviously, there's a lot of stuff that has gone on with Palace during January. There was that press conference with Glasner where he said that Gay was basically leaving. He made it sound like he wanted to go as well. The board hadn't supported him and stuff like that. There was speculation for a few days that he might get fired. Then he's now ending up staying. Mateta wanted to leave, but now he's at the club as well. There is a lot of noise around Palace, but actually, I don't know if they have lost that many crucial players, unless I'm forgetting someone outside of Gay. Now, I'm not trying to play down how big of a loss Gay is, but most of the rest of the team that started the season is still there. I know they lost Eze, but that was ages ago, right? And Munoz has already done well in his absence. Like, Lacroix's fit, Munoz is fit, Mitchell's fit, Richards is fit. They obviously have to play another centre-back instead of Gay. Wharton's back from suspension, so he can play. I mean, Kamada's out, sure, but you've got Wharton in midfield. You've got Pino, Brennan Johnson and Sarr behind the number 9. Mateta started I know there's an ongoing knee issue with Mateta and he might have surgery and we'll probably find out about that soon. But he has started every game apart from the one this weekend. And that was because of the transfer speculation. And if Mateta's out, they've got Strand Larsen. So are they a weaker team than the start of the season when they lost Eze? Yes, but Eze's been gone a while. Are they a weaker team without Gay? Of course, yes. But does Gay have that much effect where Munoz is like a terrible pick now? I mean, like if I was free hitting in 26, Munoz would definitely be in the team. If I was free hitting in game week 27, Munoz would definitely be on the team. How many defenders are better than him? Like, we're playing a season where defensive contributions are super important. And most of the defenders that I've owned since I wildcarded in game week 4 have been DEFCON defenders. But Munoz is the only genuine attacking defender that can maybe match them and do better. We've seen him hit double-digit hauls already this season. Could he get a goal or an assist against Burnley and then do the same against Wolves? Absolutely. So when you say, is he really worth it? I mean, that depends on your situation. If you get to game week 26 and your defence looks good, you don't have to force Munoz in. But if you get to game week 26 and you need to make a defender transfer, and let's say for argument's sake, you're already on triple Arsenal, why would you buy a different defender? Like, who is better than Munoz? And I'm all for defensive contribution players. I think players like Senesi, Joachim Anderson, etc., they're good picks for your bench and to play them in some of the good fixtures they've got coming up. But I would trade them all in for Munoz against Burnley at home. Of course I would. Like, this potential, like, I guess the thing you've got to ask yourself is, now Gay's gone, how much do you think that impacts the defence? Obviously, it makes them worse, but I think often we overemphasise how much worse it will make a team. Palace aren't all of a sudden a relegation team or a relegation defence. Can Palace get a clean sheet against Burnley at home? Of course. It's not guaranteed, but it could happen. Can Munoz get an attack and return? Yes. So I think for 26, 27 and 30, he's a pretty good pick. And again, without repeating myself too much, money is not making much of a difference right now. If you own Munoz in defence, it's probably not massively impacting anywhere else in your team because of the lack of premium options right now. So do I think he's essential? You've got to buy him? No. But if I get to game week 26 and I need a new defender that's not Arsenal, and I've got 5.8 million. I don't see why I wouldn't buy Munoz unless there's something I'm missing. So yeah, is he really worth it? Depends. Do you need a new defender? If so, consider him. Should just quickly say, if Man City get through to the Carabao Cup final tonight, which they almost certainly will because they've got a 2-goal lead and the second leg is at home, then it's very, very likely that they and Crystal Palace will blank in game week 31. So if you do bring Munoz in either this week or next week, then yes, he's got that Leeds at home game in 31, but after that he will blank. So you could argue it's not worth using a transfer to bring him in and take him back out again. But again, if you get to 26, you need a new defender and you've got the moves to deal with him in 31, he's still great from 26 to 30. So I've had a few questions like this recently, so I thought I would pick one out, run through it, and kind of just go through what my thought process would be. So at what point do continuous weekly red arrows make a game week 32 wildcard the suboptimal decision? Because I've lost so many points before then. In game week 20, I was ranked at 400k. Now I've slipped outside the top 1 million. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Now, I've talked a lot about game week 32 wildcard. That's my strategy. By the way, it doesn't have to be 32. Like, some of your teams might look okay in 32 after the blank in 31. So maybe you can save the wildcard till 33. Or maybe even free hit 33, wildcard 34, especially if you've already used your bench boost before then. So there are different ways you might be able to play it. I would just view it as a post game week 31 wildcard, essentially. And I think because of the blanks and doubles we'll have later on, it will be worth a lot of points. You might lose a few points in the short term, but long term, hopefully you will gain more. And overall, the only aim is to get the most points by the end of the season. It doesn't really matter what your rank is now, it's what it is at game week 38. And if the blanks and doubles fall in a really nice way, that wildcard and free hit combination later on could be great. So for most people, I would try and stick with it. But it's worth saying again, I cannot guarantee it will be good. It might be that people wildcard now and they do much better overall. It's just impossible to say. But for most people, I think it probably is worth waiting. Now, we're all human. If things aren't going well and you want to just feel better about your team, wildcarding now is not a problem. But before you do it, I would say this, and this is easier said than done. You've got to try and forget about what's happened. The basis for using a wildcard should be, does my team need it? Not what my rank has been recently. So does my team need a wildcard moving forward? So for this person that submitted the question, I actually got them to submit their team as well. So this is what it looks like. They've got the Dubravka and Verbruggen goalkeeper combination, which is fine. Dubravka's got West Ham at home this week, Verbruggen's Palace at home. That's okay. I don't think that in itself is worth a wild card. The back four is Tarkowski, Gabriel, Chalobah, Chow. Midfield is Fernandes. Saka, who's obviously got an injury and probably needs to go. Enzo Fernandez, Rice, Haaland, and Evan Nielsen. So it's a 4-4-2. And on the bench is Maidi, probably not a great pick right now. Alderete, who's got a couple of dodgy fixtures in game weeks 25, 26. And then Guy, who's obviously not great. But playing four at the back is fine. Right? I've done it many times this season. So does this team need a wild card? I would say probably not. Like, how much are you gaining from popping the wild card right now? Like, I love Thiago from 27 onwards, but he's not essential to have for Newcastle away, Arsenal at home. And in fact, Evan Nielsen's probably one of the forwards that you could go for the next couple of games before going back to Thiago. Haaland, I've already spoken about, I think is okay to keep. Enzo Fernandez is good until game week 28. Declan Rice is already in place for the double. Bruno Fernandes is one of the best picks in the game right now. Gabriel's the best defender in the game. You've got him. Chalobah's good for the next 3 game weeks. Chow's not great for the next couple of weeks after this week, but Brentford at home is fine. And actually, you're in an even slightly better position than me. I've got Lewis Hall, but he's up against Thiago. You don't even have that problem. And then Tarkowski's okay. Not amazing, but he's okay. Good for DEFCON. So I don't think you're in a super bad position. Like, I guess one thing you could say is you probably don't want a second Arsenal attacker, I don't think, alongside Rice personally. So I'd want to shift Saka to a defender or a goalkeeper. So that will take 2 transfers. But even if you've only got 1 this week, you could just do Saka down to a different midfielder like in Burmo or Wirtz or whichever midfielder you want. And then next week, maybe do Chow to Timber. Then you've got Gabriel. So not only have you sorted out Saka this week and got your additional 3rd Arsenal next week, you've then arguably got the best 3 Arsenal. Gabriel, Timber, and Rice. So I think that looks kind of okay. And you'll probably play 4-4-2 again. I mean, yeah, because then you swap Chow to Timber. So I guess if I just quickly go to see what Everton's fixtures are, Tarkowski next week has Bournemouth at home, so he's fine to play. So next week you'd play Tarkowski against Bournemouth at home, Gabriel, Timber, and then Chalobah's got a good fixture against Leeds. So your defence looks great. Then you've got Fernandes, Rice, Mbeumo, or Wirtz or whoever, plus Enzo, who's also good. Haaland's fine, and Evan Nilsson's fine. If I wildcarded, would I pick this team? Of course not. But would I pick a much better team than this that's worth a wildcard? I just don't think so. I think overall it doesn't look great because of the bench, but that doesn't really matter if most of those players play, which they will. So I would argue you can gain a lot more later on. Like, I'll be honest, I've not thought about Wildcard 25 all that much, but Triple Arsenal would obviously be in there. I think I would keep Haaland. I'd probably have Fernandes. You've got them. And you'd probably have to go for a few Chelsea still because of the next three. Like, in my opinion, that's not worth a wildcard. And I know it's easy for me to say that because I've had green arrows recently. This isn't my team, so I don't need to worry about it. But that would probably... And I think, by the way, if you've watched my videos for a while, you know how patient I am with players, even if it's not going well. I just don't think you've got that many issues. And I think this is the case for most people. And look, wildcard might net you a few more points, but I still believe for this team, you're much better off getting the points later on. Like, I've seen some people on my timeline, like they popped up on the For You page saying that wildcard 24 went really well for them. They gained a bunch of points, but they've still scored fewer points than a lot of people that didn't wildcard. Like, next week, for 25, 26, could this team do really well and get some green arrows? Absolutely. I just don't think you make enough impactful changes. You switch Saka this week, you do Chow to Timber next week. Surely that's fine. Just play 4-4-2 again. And then when you get to 27, once you've downgraded Saka and upgraded Chow, you've probably still got a bit of money left over. Maybe you upgrade Miley to an Anderson or Alderete to a different defender. Like, playing 4 or 5 at the back is fine. And by the way, just on Tarkowski, okay, maybe you don't want to play him against Man United at home. It's not terrible. Like, DEFCON defenders are just good. Then he's got Burnley at home in 29. So he's not like a massive problem. Chalobah's definitely not. And I'm just going to repeat myself. That's how I would run through it. Does my team actually need a wild card? Like, that is the only important question, really. And I know we're all human, so the red arrows affect us and it makes us want a wild card more. But if you can just forget about that, does this team need a wild card? Truly, does it? In this case, I don't think so. And many people will disagree, but that's just my thought process. Anyway, try and run through that yourself. For your own team if you're thinking about wildcarding now. I do think there'll be a lot of points on offer later on. And I think wildcard will be much more interesting than it is right now, but it also might not be. We'll have to wait and see. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back with team selection tomorrow. See you then.